steering wheel. Somebody tell him to give it to me.
There's something loose between my legs.
I don't know. Let go!
I'm heavier than a freaking boat.
Nothing he's going to say can make that any better.
Yeah, nobody. No more radio for the rest of the race.
I'm going home.
Hello and welcome to DRSFC, an F1 podcast by soccer nerds. I am a soccer nerd. I'm André Carlisle here with another soccer nerd. Donald Wine, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Can you believe we're like less than a week away from the start of the season?
I cannot believe it at all. I really thought we had a lot more time. We do not. So because we do not, we decided to do a season preview DRSFC way. There are other people who know more, who spend time at the track, who get to talk to the team principals, the drivers, the engineers, all that stuff. We don't. So what we do is follow the mess. We love a little bit of mess. Think of the Marie Kondo meme, the I love mess. That's us as a podcast. This sport is full of supremely wealthy people, genius engineers, prestigious car brands, beautiful people. Congratulations, Charles Leclerc, on getting married. Yeah. That's amazing. But one of the most entertaining appeals of all that mixture of things is the mess it can create. So we are going to look at the top 10 potentials for mess in 2026 because there's a lot that can happen. There's a lot of unknowns. And when you mix unknowns and all the money that you can win or lose in this sport, we got some messes. So Donald, you ready?
I'm ready. I've seen this list ahead of time. I'm already excited about talking about some of these because, some of this has the potential to really make 2026 fun, shall we say.
Absolutely. If you're like us and love mess, fun is the key word. All right. So top 10, we're going to start with number 10, the return of papaya rules. Oh, you thought you were free from papaya rules. Maybe not. It all depends on how the McLaren car goes. Obviously, Lando Norris already has a championship. I've also heard on other podcasts, I believe the race reported that Mark Webber, who is Oscar Piastri's manager, has kind of been persona non grata at races for McLaren. They're kind of like, hey, buddy, you're a lot right now. And I think he's trying to, make sure Oscar doesn't end up being the quote unquote number 2 driver the way that he was. So, or they tried to make him, but, not bad for a number 2 driver. The reason why this is 10 is because, one, Lando already has a championship. So if you're looking at who to back, there's a big old trophy next to one. No matter how he got it, we can argue about that later, but he's got it. But the other reason is McLaren don't make their own engine. And so McLaren Magic might have to wait until midway through the season till they can get their head around the entire package that they're going to get from Mercedes. So I don't think they're going to start the season extremely strongly. And if they don't, then depending on what happens above them, maybe there's a chance that by the time they catch up, they're already too many points. Their drivers are already too many points behind to actually get into the scenario we saw many times last season, where it was like they're scrapping to figure out who's going to win a race, who's going to qualify the highest, who's going to get the preferential strategy. I don't know if that's going to matter if they're not expected to run 1-2 at every circuit.
It's funny. We're starting right off the bat. I think this should be way higher. The reason why is they are the defending champions for both drivers and for the constructors. You don't just get to fade to black as the defending champions. Everyone comes for you. And I think the struggles are enhanced when you are the defending champs. If they do come out the gate struggling, people are going to be like, well, what happened? There's also, you mentioned the element of Lando already having a title, and guess who didn't get one? And that's Oscar. And we could talk till we're blue in the face about how much the papaya rules influenced Lando winning that championship at the direct expense of Oscar winning the title. And as I said last season, like there's going to be a point where Oscar is going to say, all these IOUs are due. And if they can't come up with the car to help those IOUs be returned, then we're going to have an issue. And even if they're struggling, there is going to be a point where they're going to kind of defer to one or the other. That's just how this works. Papaya rules don't work when you're 5th in the grid or 4th in the grid. It only works, air quotes, at the top. And so I think this can be potentially much higher because of the fact that, at least as of right now, it doesn't seem like they have the dominant car. They may have one of the better cars, but they don't have the one that everyone is shooting for, but they're still going to shoot for them anyway. That's what happens when you're the champions.
Yeah, no, that's a very fair point. It is very like car specific. We have no idea what the car is going to be. If the car is mid pack, then we don't really have to worry about papaya rules. But if it's not, yeah, we'll see. All right, let's go to number 9. Number 9, I've got Cadillac Catastrophe. It took so many rounds of wheeling and dealing, yeeting Michael and Andretti because apparently they just hated him. It took so much for Cadillac to be able to get on the grid. One, they had to pay a ton of money because all these other teams were like, hey, if you're taking a cut of our money, we want a big cut of your money right off the bat. Took a while to figure out how much that was going to be. And they maybe cloaked some of that in, real performance questions, as we don't know how a new team can really just jump in, especially at the beginning of a new regulation set, build an entire F1 team and not just get in the way, not be slow, not be breaking down on the time, causing red flags, getting into all sorts of problems, getting lapped multiple times. That's what the fear was, at least expressed. But, I tend to think it was more about the money than that. But I still think that is a worry. These are very, very difficult cars to manufacture, especially to the level of competition in the top division of Formula racing, right? This is very, very difficult to do. Cadillac came in, and I will say it's number 9 because testing looks good. They don't look to be, they're obviously not going to win races and probably pick up points, but they look fine. They look like they'll belong on the grid, at least pace-wise from the testing that we saw. But if not, and they can't get the car around the track and they're struggling, there is that little bit of, oh no, maybe this was a bad decision to let a team in, because now, you got teams at the top trying to scrap and like dominate at the beginning of a regulation set, and Cadillac just back there running into each other, blowing up and causing red flags and everything. So maybe it's number 9 because I don't think it will happen, but we haven't seen a Cadillac in a race yet, so we'll have to find out.
I think this is low, right? And look, I'm going to put my bias for Cadillac aside for a second, because obviously I don't want this to happen. I want them to come out the gate swinging and like you said, maybe not win races, but at least look like they're supposed to be here. And we could talk, we're soccer guys. We could talk for days about expansion fees and how those work and how those are, can be bad. And also, something that is how you get into a grid like Cadillac had to do in this case. But I think the one thing is Cadillac is in this quandary. It's not necessarily a big deal, but it adds to the suspense. Their rollout so far has been great, like objectively great, from the car to the drivers to, like you said, the testing and how they put in a lot of laps to get the data that they needed. They are acting like an expansion team and they're doing the right things. I just don't know if the public is going to allow them the grace of being an expansion team. This is Formula One. There's billions of dollars invested in this, and there's going to be people in their investment core that are going to be like, yo, what's up with the wins now? Now that we got all this stuff, what's up with the performance? And I think they need to be offered some grace because they are an expansion team. I plan on doing that. But yes, there's going to be a certain point where results are going to have to matter. And whether that's early on, mid-season, look back and say, okay, what's up for year 2? That's not a question for either of us. That's a question for Cadillac again and GM and all the people who have put money into this. But I don't think this is going to be a huge issue because I think most people have wrapped themselves around the fact that Cadillac is brand new. They're not going to be good on the grid. And if they get a podium or if they get like top 10 finishes, that cool. Like that's going to be a bonus for them. So yeah, I don't think it'll be a catastrophe. I also, again, let me put my Cadillac covered glasses back on. I hope it's not a catastrophe because I really want to see them do well.
Yeah, I do think that like the year to watch in the future for Cadillac is 2030. I believe that's the year when they're supposed to have their own engine. That would be something to watch, because an engine program going a little wonky can really sink a program. Just ask Renault. All right, moving on. Number 8, same old Red Bull. All right, Here it is. Last year, Red Bull were super messy. They gave Liam Lawson, their brand new driver, who they brought up and were like, oh, this kid is the next one. We believe in him. We're going to put him next to Max Verstappen. He's going to learn. It's going to be the school of hard knocks. It's going to be great. Oop, 2 races. No, never mind. Forget all of that. He's gone. Move him out of there. Get him out of the car immediately. And they swapped him down to Racing Bulls, brought Yuki Tsunoda up. Knock-on effect, Yuki's no longer on the grid. Yuki had such a bad year next to Max Verstappen, which we were all terrified about, that he wasn't going to be on the grid in 2026. And here we are, 2026, and he does not have a race. This is supposedly a new Red Bull. Supposedly. Lauren Mekies is in charge. He seems to be a more reasonable, more calm, less emotional, less reactive personality. But who knows? You know, Helmut Marko is out. Christian Horner is out, which we'll get to him later. So like you would assume this is not going to be the same old Red Bull. So I have it low at number 8, but it's still Red Bull. And if Arvid Lindblad, their other new rookie, who they think is going to really the only rookie that's going to be on the grid in 2026, aside from Fernando Alonso, is if he's rolling and if he's looking good and if he's dominating Liam Lawson and Racing Bulls, and you see Isaac Hadjar struggling, do they make the move? Do they swap them? I don't think they will. But again, if you would have asked me how many races Liam Lawson would have gotten, even though I know how reactive Helmut Marko and Christian Horner were back then, I would have said a number higher than 2. So I can't really put it past them depending on performance, but it's low because of that. But I still think if that happens, there's a whole knock-on effect that could really go down. And we'll get to other knock-on effects that could happen at Red Bull because I think they're going to be very interesting to watch this season. But Donald, same old Red Bull driver swap mid-season or after 2 races? What do you think?
You know, it's funny. With Lauren Mekies, I would thought that there would have been a change. And with more specifically with Helmut Marko gone. Christian Horner is one thing, but with Helmut Marko gone, you would have thought there would have been a change in attitude, a change in how Red Bull does things. And then they gave us a change of blue on the same damn car, right? Like we saw the regression to the mean of Red Bull being Red Bull just by how they've been moving through preseason. We even have Max Verstappen saying, "Oh, my car sucks," right? Like every year, it's the same, like clockwork. They give us the same car. Racing Bulls, they may change like something here or there, change the name slightly, V carb to Racing Bulls, back to V carb, back to Racing Bulls. They give us some Red Bull rookie who is the future, and they give us Max saying that the car sucks and that they're terrible and they're going to lose everything when they don't. I think the real key here is as we kind of mentioned, if Hadjar doesn't do well in that second car, it leads people to believe that maybe it wasn't Christian Horner, maybe it wasn't Helmut Marko, maybe it's just Red Bull and how they operate, and that they need a full fundamental shift in how they approach this. I would hate that, not as a Red Bull hater, but as a Christian Horner hater. I know we'll talk about him later, but I don't want to give any oxygen to the fact that he can say that, oh, I have everything that I've done for Red Bull bad can be kind of discarded by the fact that they're still doing the same bad things when I'm not there. And so I don't want to give any oxygen to him saying, oh, this is just an entry for me back into the grid in some fashion. But Red Bull, I don't know if it's a higher issue, right? I don't think it's something that's more messed than it should be. I think you have it slotted right where it should be, but it's definitely something to watch because again, Red Bull is going to try and challenge. Max is going to try and win another drivers' championship, and Mekies has no excuses. It's his ship. He's got to figure out how to steer this thing in the way that he sees fit, and not necessarily how the machine that is Red Bull sees fit.
Yeah, and is he going to be allowed to do that is the question.
Correct.
So far, it's been fine, but also he's been like, he's almost had like, we're, again, soccer podcast, but like new manager bounce, kind of what it feels like. It's like, okay, we got a new guy in here. Everybody's a little bit less tense, a little freer. They play a little happier. Things are a little lighter. Okay, this is fine. But now we're going into something that all the tension is coming back, and we'll see how he deals with it. And if he's allowed to keep that kind of same calm, just fix problems, be solution-oriented vibe that he's got going on there, at least last year. We'll see if he's able to do that this year. All right, on to number 7. Flavio Briatore reopens his bag of tricks. For those of you who don't know, Flavio Briatore is an outrageous character. Not even in the world of F1, just in life. Just a
Yes.
weird. I don't know how he's not in jail or dead. If I'm just being honest,
Or
seriously,
king
check
of a
out that.
country. All of those
Right.
things are possible with it.
Correct. Check out the guy's Wikipedia page. It's bonkers. But he actually got banned for life from F1 because of a little scandal called Crashgate when he was head of Renault. He had one of his drivers intentionally crash to bring out a safety car to help Fernando Alonso win a race, which is wild because Alonso's a rookie. I don't know how, and there must have been a different dude. I don't know.
He's gotten a
but-
lot of red shirt years if you go back to college. Yeah.
He's stacking up the red shirt years. He's on his 15th red shirt year.
Yeah.
So he did that. F1 was like, okay, this is bad. We can't have you changing results or altering results or manipulating results in this way. So lifetime ban for you. Funny enough, a lifetime ban in F1 only lasts a year. So in 2009, he was reinstated, and that's how he was able to eventually get back into the sport. And now he's running Alpine. Kinda. I don't even know what his official job title is, but he's calling the shots. If you watch Drive to Survive, he's calling the shots. But the question about this is the reason why this is on the list is because Alpine, at least from testing, looks to be in position to be best of the rest. It actually looks like them and Haas, which means if you have a track where one of the top teams or either crashes out, gets a setup wrong, gets something wrong with how they approach their weekend, Alpine could be in line. One of those drivers, probably Pierre Gasly, will be in line for a podium. If that happens, because remember, we still believe that Alpine is up for sale. I think they're just trying to right the ship and say, hey, come in, successful team, it's on the rise, give us a bunch of money instead of selling it low. So I still think there's pressure on him to show results because last year was super bad. They're going to want to show that they can consistently pick up points. And if a podium's within reach, they can achieve it. How can they achieve it? Well, who knows? Maybe their other driver just crashes on the track in an opportune moment, and who knows what happens. Would he do the exact same thing? Maybe not, but the guy is very crafty. Again, read his Wikipedia page. This dude is slippery and very, very interesting as a character. So if Alpine is good, and if Alpine is close to top 5 or a podium, if they just be on the lookout for them doing something weird.
Do you know who the principal is?
Oh, God.
That's the answer. Neither do I, off the top of my head.
Exactly.
And that's the problem for Alpine.
That's why I said he's running the team. Maybe not, but also who else is?
He doesn't have an official title, but at Drive to Survive, I haven't seen the new season yet, which I'm sure we'll talk about in the show down the line. But I've definitely seen the clip of him being Godfather mob boss style in a hotel room, telling his 2 drivers that they ain't shit. Like he has that effect. So I think for Alpine to get back into being the best of the rest as they want to be, it's going to take a couple of teams, Aston Martin, completely folding, completely just going into the gutter. But it also is going to require them to understand what their structure is. And whoever is in charge of things needs to understand that, hey, I'm in charge of this, not Briatore. Briatore can't be the team principal, the team president, the marketing guy, the guy on the pit with the gun for the right wheel rear tire, the guy that holds up the jack, and he can't be on TV all at the same time. Briatore has to come in and oversee all these things, sure. Maybe if his role is to offer advice, sure, offer that advice. But after that, stay out of the way and let these guys do what they need to do, because one thing that investors hate is a team that wants a lot of money with zero structure. And if the structure is one person, that is a mess to try and figure out. And at a certain point, people may pay you enough money to get rid of said mess. And I'm sure Briatore does not want that. So they have to figure out what their structure is going to be. If he's not the team principal, let the team principal handle the mob boss, hotel room style of team talks with the drivers. Flavio Briatore needs to be the guy that oversees everything, shows how they've improved, and again, sells this team to investors, but he can't be everything at once. But again, that also it's almost not a bad thing, right? Because that is what he does. That's why you bring a Flavio Briatore, because you want him to have his hands in everything. But I think for Alpine, that may not be the right call for how they need to approach it.
So I have a question for you. You said Flavio needs to give advice, and you've heard Flavio speak before. So have I. Um, do you think Flavio's advice ever sounds like advice, or does it sound like a directive?
His advice sounds like you better do what I tell you. I'm gonna bust your ass. Like
Exactly.
it's the because I said so type
the
of
goods are
deep,
outside,
yeah.
and do you like your kneecaps? That's what it is, like the underlying tone of everything.
We
that
got
it
men
says.
outside your homes, like that sort of thing. So you're gonna bounce this turn, aren't you? Yeah, Flavio, you're good. That's Mr. Briatore to you. Like that, he's that kind of guy.
Exactly. So we will see. If Alpine's any sort of good, I do not put it past them doing something weird. And when you got that guy leading everything, there's a lot of weird that can happen. So, all right, let's go to number 6. Number 6 is the new regulations ruin racing. Listen, there are a lot of theories behind why so many changes happen at once. They kind of looked at the entire concept of their cars and what they're attempting to accomplish, and how do they prepare for the future and lead into the future. And in each aspect of it, aerodynamically, engine wise, even from the fuel that is in the cars, they said, we are going to change everything. Very ambitious, very interesting, has led to a super fascinating off season and training season, I suppose, where we're just kind of seeing each team's different approaches. Not every car looks the same now. You know, you can see little things on one car that aren't on the other. You see now little technical things that maybe this team and this car got better. You can't see inside the engine, but we hear that Mercedes may have done something that the rest missed out on. Like you're seeing variations of being able to stretch the rules and find an advantage. And I think that sort of interesting level of competitive engineering is fascinating in F1. But what if you do all that and you put the cars on the track and they go vroom vroom and it's not exciting? What if, they took away the downforce? They don't want the aerodynamics to be as powerful so that cars can be closer and you can do overtakes on track. What if that doesn't happen? What if we're looking at more processional racing? What if we're looking at even more so, whoever qualifies and gets in that clean air, or even worse, who has a better battery? That won't be exciting at all. Battery management system, because it's not like we're going to be able to track that. It's not like, oh, this driver is really good at managing tires, or oh, this driver is very good at corner entry or corner exit, and they get a jump on cars by doing that. If it's just about, oh, he pressed the button at the right time and the battery that's in the back of the car can handle it and store power, generate power easier, that's not gonna matter. If you're looking at a race and that's what the difference is, you're not gonna think that that's an exciting spectacle that you've been watching if that's so powerful and important. Big old question marks. These cars have only been on track with testing. They haven't been on track actually racing. So we'll see. It's 6 because it's an unknown. And if it's bad, there's going to be a lot of people involved in trying to fix it. And when you open up doors for teams to try to fix things, you'll get politicking, you'll get posturing, you'll get all sorts of mess behind the scenes. And trying to pick through that to find the right solution gets very, very complicated. So this has the potential, if these regulations ruin the racing and make it bad or worse than what we've been watching, there's potential for this to get super messy.
So for me, this is the most undersold thing that you have on this list. This is far and away the number one thing that is on my list. The new regulations. The question of whether it ruins the racing part is not necessarily my focus. It's the new regulations as a whole, because as we've seen, all of these cars are different. This is not like previous years where, okay, everyone has the same engine, everyone has the same, left wheel nut. Like everything is minus, like all the wings are basically the same. Everything on these cars are different. Even the vroom vroom sounds different. And for the first time in a long while, everyone has a distinct car. The mess that can come out of that is the most fascinating part of what this season has to come, because I don't know if we're going to do this, but over under a number of times one team accuses another of cheating is going to be 5 or higher. Take the over. There is definitely. It's already been inklings of.
I was going to say, it's already started.
It's already started with teams like, man, that car's fast. What'd they do? How did they cheat? Like, that's going to be the question. And performance is going to be everything. Everyone's going to be trying to sell what they've done to their fans, to their investors, to their R&D department. if a team, and if you've seen the disparity in times in testing, wasn't tenths of a second or hundredths of a second, it was in full seconds.
Yeah.
Between first and last. First was, vroom vrooming. Last was like 5, 6, 7 seconds behind. That is a ton of time to be on a lap. And you compound that with the number of laps that all these races have. These things there's gonna be a couple of races where you're gonna have teams probably like being lapped twice, multiple times. So I'm looking at this, and if teams don't perform up to wherever the rest of the pack is, man, there is going to be a ton of people coming out and going, nah, see what happened was you saw our car during testing, right? It was good. It went vroom vroom, but they cheated over there. They did this with their little wheel thing, and you guys got to check that out, FIA. Like, that's not something we do over here. That's not part of the regulation. You're going to see a lot of that in the first few weeks of the season, where teams are trying to, again, try and see where these lines are, where these limits are. And on the other side, they're going to try and push those limits. Okay, if my car can only be X, have X amount of downforce, let's see if I can push this button a little bit earlier or do this sequence a little bit differently and see if I can get a little bit more oomph out of the car, because hundreds of seconds aren't going to matter in the first couple of races. It's going to be tenths of a second, actual full seconds. So this has the potential to have the most mess of any season that we've ever seen, because all of these cars right now are vastly different, and it's going to take a while for all of them to, and even FIA to kind of say, okay, that little wing that Ferrari has, no, we can't have that. Like, this fuel over here that this team has, nope, can't use that. All of that's going to have to be whittled down in the coming years. But this year, it's almost a wild, wild west with regulations, and that's kind of fun.
Yeah, I think the thing with F1 is always that it is so much easier to complain and to say that somebody else is doing something illegal and get it banned than it is to actually find the solution, find
Perform
a
your car.
solution.
Yeah.
And improve your own car so that it's not such a big advantage. So that is always step one. Oh, they did something interesting. Let's find out how to ban it. So I think we'll see how that goes. And I'm interested to see if you think, when we get to the top 5, if you still think that this one should be at the very top. So yeah, this will be interesting as we go into the top 5. So let's take a quick break, and then we'll do top 5 potential messes of 2026. All right, Donald, I'm starting off strong. Here we go. Number 5, Christian Horner returns. If Star Wars weren't so they weren't Disney, and they weren't hawking on copyright, I put the little Vader music in the background here because, Christian Horner sucks. There's several reasons why he sucks. I don't have time to get into them all, but there are a lot of them. One is that it seems like he doesn't really understand that he shouldn't be a sex pest towards people who work for him. That's kind of number one on the list, but there are a lot of other reasons too. And it does seem like Red Bull did him a favor. They stuck by him through that scandal when his text messages to a subordinate were leaked and everybody was looking at all the gross and nasty things that he was saying and inappropriate things that he was saying to an employee. They said, all right, well, we did an investigation. Everything seems fine here. And instead, they wait a little bit of time to end up firing him. So now it just looks like it's performance related, which paves the way for another team to bring him in instead of him being disgraced in scandal and kicked out of the sport. It's just a thing he now can, and I hate so much when they do this, especially the things that are, inappropriate and deal with power, abusing your power and being super gross towards somebody, is that now it's just an adversity to overcome. It's just an adversity for another dude to overcome. And that's how it's kind of been framed because nobody really knows how or really wants to talk about it. But because of the way they did it, there's a chance. I keep hearing rumors that he's interested in Alpine. He wants an ownership stake. He doesn't want to just come in where somebody can get him so easily. So he's looking at acquiring more power throughout this. Again, we live in a terrific world where this is something that he can demand and he can hold out for, but it almost seems like it's inevitable. Don't know if it happens this season, but if it does, potential for a lot of mess for that dude being back in F1.
So this is twofold. One, I don't think this is as big a mess potential yet because he's not on the grid yet. And the talk is just talk. I mean, we had talk last year after he got fired about him joining Alpine, them firing the principal at Cadillac to bring him in. And Cadillac immediately was like, no, we are not. Like, so every time there's been
the hell out of Cadillac for that too.
Yeah. Every time rumors about him have come up since he's been fired from Red Bull, those teams have been quick to be like, no, these are just rumors, and just let that rumor turn out. And so that's why I think it's lower as a result. However, if someone is stupid enough to actually follow through with this does vault towards the top, just behind the new regulations, because he sucks. And the fact that, and the thing is, there might be more pressure on the FIA to kind of facilitate this, because we're in a world where now, again, especially here in the United States, it's on Apple TV. Netflix is getting involved, not just with Drive to Survive. They're going to have a race. Even Tubi's getting races, right? In some form. And Netflix with Drive to Survive, that is their property. That's one of F1's biggest properties, because it's helped them open windows to new fans. And what that series wants is personalities. And if they start getting tired of having to talk to Laurent Mekies, who doesn't have a personality, and I say that with all respect, that's cool, but that doesn't sell views.
His personality is just cool as shit. That's it.
Yeah, but he's not
vibing. He's in a Corvette with his hair blown in the wind. That's his vibe.
Yeah, but I say it's not like a bad thing. But for Netflix, they're like, we need a personality. They need WWE style, and Zach Brown ain't it, right? Yeah. If they think that Zach Brown can't carry this franchise, they need a villain, right? They need a heel. And who better in their mind to do that than Christian Horner? Just him coming back would put all the cameras on him, all the airtime on him, and would start bringing the polarization back to the sport in a way. And so I'm not as convinced that will happen, but if he does come back, it would be the terrible decision for the FIA to let it happen. But I also think it would be something that they crave, because unwanted attention is still attention, right? Like what did Pete Weber say? Hate me or love me, you watched. That is Christian Horner. And so that I don't want Formula One to have to lean on him as a crutch, because that would detrimentally affect the sport in ways that can't be covered up by ratings.
Yeah, it's just the era in which we live right now. If people are talking about you, it doesn't really matter what they say. They're talking about you, and God, I hate that so much. Mm-hmm. It doesn't go well. We just give power to people because people talk about them. That's going super well, right? Super well. Moving on. Let's go to number 4. 4 on the list. I have Mad Max. Okay, so I heard what he said throughout testing. Okay. I heard what was going on. And honestly, I think people are overreacting a little bit. If Max was ecstatic, that would be terrifying. He's a Dutch dude. We know his demeanor. He doesn't really go too high or too low. If he was ecstatic, they might as well cancel the season and just give him the trophy, okay? He's always going to complain. He's always going to push. He's never going to be satisfied. This is just what he does. But, Donald, what if Red Bull is actually bad? What if they're really bad? What if even one of those classic Max Verstappen pulls out a qualifying lap out of nowhere and gets himself on pole? What if he does one of those laps and he finishes 7th or 5th on the grid? What if they're super bad? Remember Spain last year when he just T-boned George Russell because he was pissed off in the car? Yep. Yeah, if it's super bad, you could see Mad Max on the track, not nudging drivers out for podiums and wins, but just because he's mad and wants to feel something or just throwing a tantrum or whatever. If that's the case, very concerning. And I have an addendum to this one as well, because one of the things that F1 is known for is a silly season, where drivers and rumors start talking about drivers going to different teams. We got a taste of that, which was actually wild last season when everybody was kind of thought they had some secret clause in Max's contract that was going to let him get out. And, he's on a yacht and that looks like Toto Wolff's yacht. And there are these grainy photos popping up on the internet and all the F1 accounts are going bonkers. If Red Bull is actually bad, and Max might actually be looking to get out of there, the whole silly season thing is going to be a mess in and of itself. And George Russell, who had already took Mercedes they waited until the last minute to give that man his extension. And my guess is there's something behind the scenes. And I think he's worried about all the goodwill, all the effort he put into sticking with Mercedes and making them great, beating Lewis's final year at Mercedes in a head-to-head competition. I think that George Russell is secretly terrified that if Max becomes available, he's out, because Toto Wolff does not want to let go of Kimi Antonelli. He sees Antonelli as the next Max Verstappen. Who better for him to learn from than actual Max Verstappen? So I think you get a ton of mess if the Red Bull car is bad and Max is pissed off to the point of looking to go elsewhere.
I think this is appropriately placed because, yeah, it feels like, one, Red Bull doesn't have a dominant car. It has one of the better cars, like I said, but it's not. It's like McLaren. They're right there, and sure, with the right driver, can they make up a second or two? Which is what their pace was behind Mercedes. I don't know, and Ferrari. I don't know what that answer is, but I think that he also had, like, Horner and him could kind of scrap back and forth, and both of them, it felt like, were on the level, like seeing eye to eye, right? Like their personalities weren't, one wasn't higher than the other. Menkes is not a guy who's going to be going back and forth with Max about, like, hey, I'm not here to sit here and argue with you about this car, because his job is to make both cars go great. And the person who's going to be kind of, left to the side in this is Isaac Hadjar, which we tried to warn him about. But again, that's what happens in that second Red Bull car. So I think if the car is actually bad, you start hearing those rumors before the summertime. Like, I don't think it waits till the silly season of that summer break. I think come summertime, if they're like getting towards after Monaco, getting towards like that European stint, which into, I think, I want to say the Dutch Grand Prix is in the middle of that. But if he's getting in there and his car is not up to snuff, he does not, first of all, he does not want to lose his home race. He does not want to be embarrassed in his home race. And if he is, the silly season will begin right then and there, because it's not just going to be Mercedes that's going to be involved. It's going to be any team that is stupid enough to want to, shake up everything. Because if when Lionel Messi wanted to come to Major League Soccer, there was like 990 billion teams around the world who were like, no, you could come here too. Like, we'll take you. We'll figure out the money later, but at least got to float the flyer. I think you'll have 10 or 11 teams going after him saying, I know you might be set on one thing, but if you want to hear us out, our door's always open. And that will create a huge, huge scene, because he will be one of the biggest dominoes in years, right? Him and Lewis Hamilton switching teams are the two biggest dominoes that could ever happen in this era of Formula One. So, yeah, I think that mess only continues to build until there's a breaking point. I think the breaking point would be if he got embarrassed in the Dutch Grand Prix.
Yeah, and I actually think the point about how Meckes is going to approach both cars is very interesting too. Like, if they're going to be equitable and try to create a car that's balanced enough to where Hadjar can also, be competitive with it, is that going to harm Max, and he's going to be pissed off about that? Does he want them to go completely in his direction so that he can start fighting for podiums and race wins? And if the reason why they won't do that is because they want to be fairer as a team now because Meckes is in charge, interesting. And how does that go for Meckes? Do they choose him or Verstappen? Probably Verstappen. So, potential for a lot of mess here if that Red Bull car is bad.
And Christian Horner had the liberty of saying, guys, I have a driver's champion here. Like, forget all what y'all talking about, making sure both cars are equitable. I got a champion here. I'm going to take care of the champion. And he was able to use that for 5 years. And even last year, right? In a way, they were like, this is the defending champion. We're not making the car for the other guy. And he could stay and know, what are you going to do? Fire me for taking care of a champion? You're not. So back up. Meckes doesn't have that liberty anymore, because he's not housing a driver's champion, a current driver's champion, I should say. And he has to make both cars equitable in this new regulations. Otherwise, they'll fire him quickly if they don't think it's going well with both cars in the standings. So, yeah, it's a give and take, and I think Minky's is equipped to handle that, but there's going to be a point if they start losing by multiple seconds to the teams ahead of them, people are going to start asking questions.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to number 3. This one hurts my heart. Leclerc versus Lewis. Oh my God. One of the most exciting things and terrifying things from testing was that Ferrari might have cooked a little bit. They might have cooked a little bit with their car. And if they've cooked enough to where they can actually, win races, be on podiums consistently, get them their drivers and themselves competing for a title. Oh, now you've got 2 drivers who will feel rightly like they have the right for the preferred strategy to be the one who gets whatever. I mean, you could just say, hey, y'all handle it on the track. But even that has its own potential for mess because listen, I'm going to say it. Quiet is kept. Leclerc, kind of a dirty driver. Kind of a dirty driver. When you see him next to somebody.
Don't let Megan hear
I know, right? Listen, congratulations on your marriage. I'm still a fan. I like him a lot. He's a good dude. But on the track, he really does he will make that he has the most. Remember when he overtook someone and there's it was like rally car. It was just dust. He will use every inch of the track or not the track to get over on somebody. He will he does some of the wildest stuff when it comes to overtaking and in these 1v1 battles, and he looks out of control. The car is all over the place. If he's crashing at Lewis and ruining both of their races because Lewis isn't backing down. Lewis is like, hey, y'all paid me $100 billion to come here and win in this red car. This is a race winning car. I'm here. I'm close to the end of my career. I'm missing out on an 8th title, maybe even 9th title, depending on how you view history. But winning it in this car is the dream. So it's my time. And Leclerc is like, you know how many bad Ferraris I've driven? You know how many times that I've been in leads? I've had things. I've looked like I've got the talent to win a driver's championship and I don't have the machinery. If suddenly this is the machine that can get me to do it, you're going to tell me I got to take a back seat for a 50-year-old driver? I'm not having that, right? So I see so much potential for mess if that Ferrari car is good, and I am terrified that it might be good.
I think mess is present there because if you have 2 drivers with the talent level of Leclerc and Lewis, you have the potential. I mean, just like we saw last year with McLaren, right? Like anytime that a team has 2 drivers that are really, really good and they're both chasing championships, mess can happen. Lewis is no stranger to that, right? Like his first title, he didn't like his teammate. When he was with Mercedes, I mean, I think he liked Bottas. Like he liked him, but there was a clear, Lewis is 1, Bottas is 2.
Once Bottas accepted his place, they were fine.
Right. And they won a lot together. And there was definitely times where it was like, okay, look, Lewis, this is not going to hurt you. Let Bottas win. Right. But in 2016, when it was Nico Rosberg, they hated each other when they were scrapping for titles. And it was, I think Lewis is used to that. I think he and Charles genuinely like each other. But yeah, there's going to be a point where if the Ferrari car is really good and they both are at the top of the standings, they're going to have to figure out which is which and not do what McLaren did last year and kind of be wishy-washy about it. If it's, hey, this is our 1 driver, this is our 2 driver, but we're going to let them race, that's still better than what McLaren did with Oscar and Lando. And again, Leclerc has been in this position a little bit before. If you go back to 2024, when they were chasing the constructors, him and Carlos were going back and forth for the second half of the season. And together they almost, again, half a lap away from clinching the constructors together, but they still even had okay, here's 1 is Charles, number 2 is Carlos. And they had kind of delineated that by basically saying, Carlos, you gotta go because we're bringing in Lewis. And so both of them have kind of had this experience. I think through that and the fact that they both generally like each other, they can have an understanding as to how it's going to work. But Ferrari needs to be upfront, transparent with the Tifosi about what that delineation is. Who's 1, who's two. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that if Charles is one, he's going to get all the deference. It doesn't mean that if Lewis is one, he's going to, we're going to put all our nets behind them. You can still have them go and race, but there's going to be a point where you kind of look at the numbers and go, to win a Constructors, we need A, B, and C to happen. For one of you to win the Drivers' Championship, we need D, E, and F to happen. And I think that is what scares me the most, is that Ferrari has not been in that position in a very long time to have to make those decisions. I don't know if they're ready for that. That would be the biggest mess of all. I don't necessarily think it's the two drivers and how they compete with each other. Is Ferrari fumbling it at the worst possible time? But that's why this mess is where it is.
Absolutely. And there's also a scenario that's not too hard to believe where Ferrari loses both of those drivers. Lewis says, you know what, I'm out or I retire, I'm done. And Charles says, when I finally had a chance, y'all decided not to choose me. I'm going to choose another team. Yeah, they could be out both of those drivers in 2027 or 2028. So yeah, this is a very interesting year. Again, this is wild that Ferrari is in this position. Caveat, if the car is good, which is just wild.
I was going to say the big caveat, the car sounds good. It looks good so far. The performances there in the first few months, okay, this mess might be where it's supposed to be. If they're still behind McLaren, behind Mercedes, behind Red Bull, move this on back to the pack, because it's not something to really worry about.
Exactly. Yeah. This one is based really on how testing was surprisingly good for Ferrari. So I'm a little scared.
No, you can say it. This is based on Delulu Island. It's totally fine to mention that, because that's where it's located.
Also true. Merch coming soon.
Soon.
All right. On to number 2. Patronus rules. Patronus green is the green on the Mercedes, and it's not really like papaya, but I'm kind of maybe looking at trying to find a way where this is as annoying as papaya rules, and so I went with Patronus rules. Yeah, similar situation as I talked about with Leclerc and Lewis. George and Kimi, very interesting. Kimi is the favorite son. Kimi is who they yeeted Lewis Hamilton for. Kimi is who they believe in as the future. George is present. George is like, I am in my prime. I did my time at Williams. I probably should have been a Mercedes a season earlier than I was able to be at Mercedes. I was with teammates for Lewis Hamilton. I was a number 2 driver when I had to be a number 2 driver. When it was time for me to step up and maybe see it and go at Lewis, I did. I beat him. Same situation. If the car is good, if a driver's title is within reach, who do they prioritize and how is the question. Because Kimi looked like he handled some things. He had some rookie issues, but he also showed some of those flashes where you're like, oh, there he is. And I'm looking to see another big jump from him in year 2. Again, brand new cars, don't know exactly how it's going to fit his driving style. But if he's able to get a handle on this car with all the experience that he got last season, and now the Mercedes engine has given them an advantage, and now it's kind of between both of them, oh, buddy, this could get very, very fun very, very quickly. And by fun, I mean messy, because wow. George and Kimi going at it with the Mercedes for podiums and championship points. Ooh, sign me up.
So I think that is valid. I would probably have this down a little bit further, for the simple reason that last year, and I get it was Kimi's rookie year, but in the last year, George was consistently beating him in a lot of those races, whether it be qualifying, whether it be practice, whether it be the actual race.
But he was beating a baby.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I mean, again, rookie season, so there was no shame in it. But I think for there to be a Patronus rule situation, you have to have Kimi consistently beating George for that to become an issue, right?
Yeah, it can't be Serena Williams versus Maria Sharapova situation.
Well, that's like a rivalry in the sense. But yes, it's a similar thing, right?
They called it one, but it wasn't.
They called it one, but like in the sense that Kimi could outperform George in the first race of the year. And people are going to go, oh, is there a change at Mercedes? Is Kimi the new number 1? Because that's how people like to crash out about these things. I think it needs to be a consistent form of outperformance before you start saying, okay, is George really not the number 1 driver anymore? Have we really handed the keys off to Kimi, and he's the guy in the lead car? I think that's going to take some time. And that's maybe to save, again, this from being as messy as it is. But I don't think deep down that it is as messy as it is yet. Now, again, if we come out and Kimmy starts, dropping fastest laps and pole performances and beating George in every facet, then you kind of go, okay, maybe this is why they held on so long to not extending him, because they saw that this was coming. And but if George comes out and he's getting third and Kimmy fourth, second, third, if he's still outperforming him, there really is no Petronas rules, because the top dog is the top dog as expected. So yeah, it's about Kimmy taking a leap in season 2. And that remains to be seen whether he's able to do that with such a good driver as George next to him.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It is all about Kimmy's development, but I'm just going by Toto Wolff and what he's done and what he's said. Because if this dude is supposed to be a potential driver's champion, we should see more flashes this year, especially if the car has an advantage. And it sounds like they were sandbagging a little bit. We talked about that earlier as well in an earlier episode. So if the car absolutely has that engine advantage, or just an advantage period, because Mercedes usually does engines well at the beginning of a regulation set change. I want to see Kimmy and be like, oh, I see what Toto was talking about. And we only got like a handful of those moments last season. We need to see a lot more. And if we do, this gets messy.
To put a better analogy on this is like the Williams sisters, right? Venus came on the scene first. She was the beast. But everyone kept saying the better Williams sister was Serena. But you didn't know that until Serena beat Venus the first time. And then people go, oh, is this the change of the guard? When she beat her the second time, that's when they go, okay, Serena is the one. It took some time still. Even when she was coming up on the scene, the deference was to Venus, because Venus was there, she was established, and she was, just as good, if not better. But once Serena did make that turn and become better, she became the GOAT, and Venus became, quote, the other sister. No disrespect intended on that. But like, there has to be that kind of shift from Kimmy before we start thinking of him as the Neo in the Matrix.
Fair. I love that. And I just try to make like a combination of Serena Williams and Kimmy Antonelli, and it didn't come to me. And actually, I'm thankful that didn't happen. So all right, we are at number one. And I'm going to be honest with y'all. Number one was not on my list at all until testing was over, because it looks like, very seriously, Aston Martin could go boom. This could be very, very, very bad, very messy, and also very funny. Okay. They spent a lot of money, a lot of Lawrence Stroll's money. He wants his son to be a world champion. Fernando Alonso is like, hey, I would love another championship before I retire and get out of here as well. So they built a super team. Like, they put in, brand new. They have the state-of-the-art wind tunnel. Have brand new facilities. They're shiny, they're sparkly. You can check out YouTube. They have little tours of them. They are impressive. They were thoughtful. They didn't spare any expense in anything. They were tremendous in how they approached this. They brought in the best car designer F1 has ever seen in Adrian Newey. They brought in Honda, who has a lot of history of developing engines that win F1 races. And in testing, all that amounted to a big pile of poo. They were bad. They were so bad. They could barely get on the track. That Honda engine is having battery issues. Apparently the battery is overheating, and that's the reason why. And they're having to switch out batteries as well, which also now with the cost cap is another problem, because if you have to like supply and spend money on bringing in more and more batteries, way more than anybody else, that's money that can't go to other development on the car. So like, they are in an absolute mess right now. And it can maybe be fixed if Honda figures out the issue and says, okay, we figured it out. But also before the races, and I don't even know if this has happened yet, but probably, because the first race of the season isn't far away, they have to, a word that I keep hearing a lot of that I had to look up is homologation. Basically, they have to do that with their engine and say, this is the engine we're going to be running. And if they have to do it without having solved this battery problem, it's going to be until there's another they're giving teams another opportunity to develop their engines during the season, but it's not right away. It's going to be after a few races. I think the first 6 or 8 races. So yeah, this could be a big problem for Aston Martin, and a problem they cannot fix. And if they can't fix it and they're starting off and the car is bad, can't finish races, or it's way behind the pack, getting beat by Cadillac, a brand new team that doesn't have Adrian Newey, that doesn't have Lawrence Stroll's money, that doesn't have a Nepo baby in one of the seats. I mean, that's a negative, but whatever. They don't they don't have any of that. Like, this Aston Martin thing could be really bad, really funny, and super messy, because then the finger pointing, which has already happened, Aston Martin people are pointing at Honda and being like, y'all messed this up, you got to fix it. And there's so much more potential for mess here, and I don't know how it ends, especially if they have to be at the back of the pack the entire season.
I think this has become a fascinating, fast developing story in a bundle of mess, because you mentioned the homogenization or whatever of the car. That includes the fuel. Might I remind everybody that their named partner is Aramco, a gas company. They don't have the gas approved for this car. How does that work? You literally have developed this car for a year. You have a gas sponsor. You should have been the first. That should have been the first thing. You should be like, yo, we ain't got to design the car. We ain't painted it yet, but we got our gas. And they haven't even done that yet. I think the real mess is going to come, because I feel like after several years of them kind of going back and forth with this kind of mess, short of, outside Tim's aside, shout out Tim's. The fact that Aston Martin has been struggling, fighting for 5th place like the last 3 years, and now could take a step back. I wonder how many more holes have to be burned in investors' pockets before they say enough of the Strolls, enough of Honda, Newey, whatever. Changes need to be made, or this money is going away. I don't know how Daddy Stroll has the funds to keep bankrolling this type of clown car failure. I just don't see that being sustainable, even again with Aston Martin being one of the premier brands of cars on this planet. Their brand is taking a hit when it comes to F1. Mm-hmm. If all of this hits ahead, investors are going to be the ones saying, y'all are changing or we're walking away. If Aramco's like, you can't even get the gas right, and we're a gas company, we got to go. Like, those are the things that I think it involves a mess. I don't even think it has anything to do with the drivers. Even Lance, like, you could kind of dismiss a 45-year-old rookie and a Stroll in a way, because the mess somehow is way above them. And I think there is going to be, this is my slight prediction, I guess, there will be a breaking point this year with Aston Martin in the investor room, in the investor collective, where somebody says, I am not giving money to fund this mess no more. And that will be where they have to make a decision, whether it's, again, getting a new team owner in there, getting new drivers, replacing Newey, or Newey walks away because he's like, I'm not trying to deal with this no more either. If Honda walks away, because they've already had this back and forth between, it's Honda's problem. They can't keep up with Adrian Newey's design. If I'm Honda, I'm sitting there like, we don't have to take this mess either. Like, we gave you a good engine, figure it out, or we don't have to give you the engine anymore, and you can figure out how your design, can be wrapped into another powertrain. There's a lot of mess in here. I think it starts with, there will be a breaking point. And when that breaking point happens, bye-bye Aston Martin.
Yeah, I do think the dollar sign mess aspect of it, the sponsors putting in all the money, because that deal for Aston Martin is just a licensing deal. They're not involved in any technical way at all. The car's just green and they put the logo on there, and it's supposed to be Aston Martin has this is a prestigious brand, and they have this car on the F1 grid, and it's supposed to look good for them. If that car is breaking down or at the back of races, it's no longer really helping Aston Martin portray anything positive about their car brand. And so that could also be an interesting thing, because before it was Aston Martin, it was a pink Force India. What's Force India? I don't know. So like that's like that could also be any like if the money starts running, oh, then things get super messy because Lawrence Stroll will have footed a bill for a ton of things, a ton of development, a ton of facilities, bringing in Adrian Newey, giving him a ton of money and a ton of power. And if people start fleeing, oh my gosh, like it could be bad. Now I say all that, and I say they have all the tools at their disposal to fix it. The problem is the cost cap. You can't do it all at once. And the problem is also, like you said, Honda. If Honda is just like, listen, we can't do this or we don't think this partnership is working, now you got to find another engine manufacturer, and you can't do that mid-season. You already signed a deal. The engine has to be the engine that it is for the season. And so it's going to wait until next year. And then next year, when it comes to car design, they're going to work with Adrian Newey and figure all that stuff out. Like, this could be a delayed mess. Like this could be a mess that extends well beyond 2026, and that's why it's at the top of the list because it could get a little bit messy. It's already a little bit messy and get messier. And the messiest option is maybe it ain't even Aston Martin anymore come 2027 or 2028.
And it's a trickle down effect because again, if Aston Martin walks away, Alpine, who as you mentioned has been trying to sell for a couple years now, is going to be like, okay, now we can't even get our team sold. And now we got Aston Martin entering, which again is a bigger, better brand. And even if it's Aston Martin saying, we'll keep the name on here, but all y'all got to go, right? Or if they say, we're no longer licensing this thing, and then you have another team come back in, whether it's Honda, whether it's, again, Toyota, who's been trying to make inroads there with Haas, maybe one of those teams kind of sections off and says, hey, we can go and have our own team now. It can open up so many, different possibilities for how this grid looks in 2027.
And by the way, don't expect Fernando Alonso to be actually quiet if all of that is going down.
Yeah. Like I said, you could put all those guys aside. We haven't even talked about the rookie who is known for speaking out on atrocities such as mess.
Yes. He's one to add to the. If you're already having a bad time, you don't really want Fernando Alonso around because he's gonna make it worse. Just put it that way. All right, that's it. Those are the 10 things to watch in terms of potential messes. I am sure more will show up throughout the season as all these things play out. So we will watch them and we'll kind of try and see where we're at, if we need to rethink anything, and kind of track these throughout the season so we can see where the predictions were and if they look like they're no longer going to be. But we might have to figure out like a threat level. Like for each one, try to figure out where does it go? Like the ranking doesn't have to be static. Maybe we update it throughout the season from time to time and find out like a threat level assessment for where everything is. Because it might be fun to track some of these and some of the new messes that we aren't even on our radar right now. They will be at some point. So happy 2026 season. That has been your season review, DRFC / Marie Kondo style. For Donald, I'm André. Vroom, vroom.
Vroom, vroom.